Notice how often you return to the exact same place, even after you were sure you had moved on. You sit down with an intention clear and sharp, and for a few days the world seems to bend to your command. But then, quietly, without a struggle or a dramatic collapse, that momentum simply dissolves. You find yourself sitting in the exact same chair, scrolling through the exact same screen, carrying the exact same quiet friction you thought you had outrun. It feels almost like a glitch in your own agency, a silent reset button that presses itself the moment your attention flickers. We tend to call this a failure of resolve. We tell ourselves that we simply did not want it enough, that we lacked the discipline, or that our character fell short when tested. But if you watch this pattern closely, a stranger truth begins to emerge. It is not that you stopped trying. It is that something else, something much quieter, reclaimed the room as soon as you looked away. For generations, we have been sold the myth of willpower. We treat self-control as a muscle to be flexed, a reservoir of force that can conquer any bad habit or forge any destiny if only we squeeze hard enough. We applaud the grit, the early morning alarms, the teeth-gritting resistance to temptation. Yet, almost everyone who relies on willpower eventually finds themselves exhausted, standing in the ruins of an effort that burned bright and then burned out. The mistake was never in the intensity of your effort. The mistake was believing that effort is what drives the human system. Willpower is an emergency brake, not a steering wheel. It is an energy-intensive override system designed to handle short moments of acute crisis. Asking willpower to run your daily life is like driving a car with your foot stomping on the emergency brake, wondering why the engine is smoking and why you never actually reach a new destination. Deep inside the structure of your brain, there is a complex network of interconnected regions that turns on the precise moment you stop focusing on a task. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It is the mental background radiation of your daily existence. When you are not actively solving a problem, reading a map, or balancing your finances, this network lights up like a silent city at night. It is the architect of your internal monologue. It constructs your sense of identity, weaves your memories into a continuous story, projects your anxieties into the future, and quietly decides what feels normal to you. It is responsible for that low-frequency commentary running in the back of your mind all day long. It tells you who you are, what you are capable of, what is dangerous, and what is safe. And most importantly, it operates continuously, without your conscious permission. When you attempt to change your life using willpower alone, you are engaging in a silent civil war against your own default mode network. Your conscious mind wants to build a new habit, but your default network is quietly broadcasting the old blueprint. You can suppress that old pattern for a little while through sheer mental tension, but tension cannot be sustained indefinitely. The human brain is designed to conserve energy above all else. The moment you grow tired, stressed, or distracted, your conscious grip loosens, and the default network instantly reasserts its baseline program. The baseline always wins. It does not win by fighting back. It wins simply by waiting you out. It knows that you cannot pay attention forever. This brings us to a shift in perspective that is as liberating as it is unsettling. If the baseline always wins, then true change has nothing to do with building stronger willpower. It has everything to do with retraining the default mode network. Consider what this means for how you make decisions. You likely believe that when you reach for your phone, or procrastinate on a project, or slip back into an old anxiety, you are making a choice in that exact moment. But you are not. The realization that slowly emerges is that your choices are rarely made in real time. They are prepackaged responses generated by your default mode network long before the moment actually arrives. You are not deciding in the moment. You are simply executing a script that your baseline mind prepared for you while you were busy looking somewhere else. The illusion of constant conscious control begins to fall away, leaving behind a quiet and somewhat chilling truth. You are rarely the active driver of the vehicle. You are mostly just the passenger watching the scenery go by, convincing yourself that you had your hands on the wheel all along. Training the default mode network is fundamentally different from pushing through resistance. You cannot intimidate a neural baseline into changing through brute force. In fact, Aggressive effort often strengthens the very default patterns you are trying to escape, because force reinforces the deep narrative that a struggle is taking place. To train the default mode network, you have to work in the realm of subtle observation, quiet repetition, and environmental calibration. You have to change what the brain considers its default resting state. When you practice non-judgmental awareness, when you alter the quiet inputs of your daily environment, or when you sit in deliberate stillness, the default mode network begins to quiet down. Its rigid narratives start to lose their grip. The story of who you are, along with all the limitations and automatic behaviors attached to that story, becomes fluid rather than fixed. When the background noise of the brain softens, the neural architecture gains real flexibility. It becomes capable of updating its underlying operating system. This reframes everything we think we know about personal transformation. The person who successfully changes their life is not the one who is fighting a daily, heroic battle against their worst instincts. They are the person who has quietly rewritten the baseline script so that the desired behavior is what happens when they are not thinking at all. They have trained their resting state to automatically drift toward focus, calm, and clarity. For them, self-control requires zero effort because their default self no longer demands the old habits. They are not pulling themselves forward with the fragile rope of willpower. They are being carried forward by the quiet momentum of their own default programming. Think of a river cutting through a deep canyon. Willpower is like trying to hold back the current with your bare hands. It is exhausting, dramatic, and ultimately temporary. Training the default mode network is like slowly carving a new channel through the bedrock. It requires patience, quiet consistency, and an understanding of how the terrain actually works. But once that new channel is formed, the water flows there naturally, without effort, without strain, long after you have stopped watching. So bring your attention back to the room around you right now. Listen to the silence underneath whatever sounds are present. If you sit still in this moment and let the busy surface of your conscious thoughts fade away, what is the story your baseline mind is telling you about who you are, and how much of that story did you actually choose?